Hey everyone, welcome to our small footprint. My name is Nyssa. If you're new here, we are a large family living off-grid in Australia. It is Sunday morning and I need to get a few things done. Things have been delayed a little bit because of the building and everything else that's going on. So I haven't got to the peaches yet, so that's what I'm starting with this morning. Now, some of the peaches have gone quite discoloured internally. They're just overripe, but they've got that mottling on the inside. They still taste fine. Texture is fine. Not worth canning as pieces though. So what I've got here is I've got two big pots. Let me get right into it, hey? I got two big pots here. This one is the discoloured one. This bowl is the nice clean ones in a little bit of sugar water because these we can can as pieces. We'll see how much we end up with. This I'll probably just turn into peach butter and then it can be turned into anything else later. It can be turned into some sort of salsery jams. It can be turned into cordial. I don't mind what. It'll just need to be dealt with at a later date is the plan. So these are freestone peaches, which is amazing because it makes it so much easier to cut them up. And all I'm doing is taking any significant skin markings off that can go to the animals and any significant bruising, but I'm leaving all this slightly darkened flesh. It's fine, there's nothing wrong with it. It just doesn't look pretty, which is why it won't work for canning as slices. Now, part of this is because they were clearance peaches and I'm only just getting to them now. We brought them home, Tuesday, and it's now Sunday. So part of it's just poor timing. The other thing is that temperature fluctuations. So we're getting to 30 something during the day at the moment. And it got to 2 degrees last night. And these are sitting exposed at the moment. So the temperature fluctuations are not going to be helping with keeping the texture of the peach good. So I'm just going to go through, I'm going to cut them all up. We're going to end up with a huge batch of peach butter, but we will then use it for other things later. And I'll see if I can get a couple of jars of just peach slices. The kids love canned peaches. We buy them quite regularly. So it would have been nice to have gotten a bunch out of all this, but that's life. So we will just work through them all and then I'll see where I stand after that. We've got someone coming to help with the building today, so I do need to try and get these cut and cooking before they turn up so that I can go out and help. And I also need to figure out this one I won't use because it's got some mold damage in the middle, so we just won't use that one at all. That one will go to the animals. I need to figure out what I'm doing for dinner and stuff too. So I'm just going to keep working through this. I'll bring you back to figure out what else I'm doing today. All right, so I've got a pot on the stove with all the peach in there. We only ended up with this much peach that's in good nick. Now, I could can this in just a couple of jars, but I don't really see the point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some pastry. This is in a bit of sugar water, so I'm just going to mix this up to make sure it's all coated in the sugar water. And in the meantime, I'm going to make some short crust pastry, and I'll make a couple of peach galettes out of it. Just super simple, and that will be dessert for tonight. So I'm going to mix up one of my standard things of pastry, except I'm going to use butter and a bit of sugar instead of the lard that I would normally use. So I've got my Thermomix. I'm going to put 400 grams of flour in there. I'm going to put about 25 grams of sugar. I'm going to put 60 grams of olive oil and 60 grams of butter. And then we're going to put 110 grams of iced water in here. We're going to just bring that together on speed 5. Not that you can see exactly what I'm doing, can you? Speed 5. Yeah, little balls will now hold together. So now we're going to tip this out, put it into discs and stick it in the fridge. I'm going to mix this up to make sure that it's all got some liquid coating on it, the sugar syrup coated on it, and store that in the fridge as well. And we'll come back and make these later on for dessert tonight. So this will make enough for 2 because it normally makes a top and a bottom of a pie. We'll just take that in half and pat each one out into a disc to make it easier to roll out later. And then this will go in the fridge till I'm ready for it later on today. The other thing with canning peaches is that a lot of people would have cut out the middle discoloration before canning them. I'm not going to, because that's just losing flesh. A lot of people would also skin them, but to peel a peach you basically need to boil it for 30 seconds whole and then put it in ice water. And because I didn't know which ones were any good and which ones weren't, I wasn't going to do that. So canning these, they may not have been superb for, they still would have been edible as for baking, and depending on how much I use in the galette, I may end up canning just a jar of them because I can use them to make a galette at another time. But for the moment, I think I'll just put them in the fridge and we'll use them for the galette tonight. And I've got that big pot of peach butter cooking. I'm a bit mad at myself about letting them get this far, because it's not often that I get the opportunity to have freestone peaches. Most of the peaches that we get are clingstone or semi-clingstone, and cutting them into nice slices for canning is next to impossible because you have to sort of mutilate them to get them off the pips. And these were nice freestone, giant freestone peaches, which would have made for really nice slicing and canning. But I can only do what I can do, and I just didn't get there. So these will be fine sitting in the fridge for a little bit. They're very firm, so it won't be an issue, and the sugar syrup will stop them from browning, and we're going to bake them anyway, so that's okay. So I'm just going to do that. Pastry's in the fridge to chill too. Now I have had a request to make hot chocolate powder, so I need to do that for the kids because they have run out. The other thing is that we have a lot of bananas that have gone ripe really quickly, and I think a lot of that is the fact that the temperatures again. So as I said, we got down to 2.7 degrees Celsius last night, but the daytime is still getting warm. So if I check my weather station at the moment, it is currently 27 degrees. So the massive swings in temperature do not lend to fruit and veg very well lasting if it's not in a climate controlled space. And peaches and stuff do not do well in fridges either, so we didn't stick them in the fridges because we put apples in the bottom drawer of the upright fridge. It doesn't get particularly cold and it sits at quite a good temperature for apples. Bananas go black if you put them in the fridges, which means that the kids won't eat them fresh if they go like that. So I'll just need to do something with the bananas. Now, the problem at the moment is freezer space. We have none. With the amount of meat and everything in the freezers, so I could probably freeze some bananas whole in flat and probably have enough room to do that. But I could bake a whole lot of muffins and stuff, but I can't freeze any either. Mind you, it's not generally an issue. Like, I can probably make 3 or 4 dozen muffins and they'll be eaten over the next 3 days pretty easily. There is 5 children, so you know, you're talking a dozen a day, easily eaten, if not more, because we make them fairly small. So I might have to do some banana muffins. I could do some banana zucchini muffins or some banana zucchini bread, but I don't think I will, because I'd like to use that zucchini as vegetables rather than as muffins. I'm going to have a bit of a think, but I need to use some bananas up. I need to make chocolate. I'll put this in the fridge. I'll get the stuff together and make hot chocolate powder. And while I'm thinking about that, while I'm doing that, I'll think about what I'm going to do with the bananas. So there we go. We've got chocolate powder done. All I do is blend everything in the Thermomix so it's all the same granulation, because then that way it will dissolve more evenly and you'll get more even out of the jar. So I've made this a few times. I'm sure the recipes are around. I don't know if I've put it on the website or not, but anyway, I do it in parts. So we do 2 parts of sugar, 1 part of cocoa, 1.5 parts of milk powder, and then a couple of pinches of salt, and about 100, and for me, my I do it in 200 gram parts. So I do 400 grams of sugar, 150 odd grams of cocoa to 200 grams, and then about the 300 grams of milk powder. I do like 3 or 4 pinches of salt, and then I do about 100 grams of starch of some kind, potato, corn, whatever you want, just to help it to thicken up, but also to stop it from clumping in the jar as well. And then we have this, and this lasts them, it depends on the season. In winter, obviously, they drink it a lot more. In summer, they drink it less. So anyway, hot chocolate powder, done. Next up, I have these bananas, and I just had a thought that maybe I could do banana peach muffins. So if I put, say, these are very small bananas, if I put, say, 6 of these in, it would be the same as 3 large bananas. Let's have a look, think about crossing our pancake bake with our banana bread recipe, adding peach. So we got, what have I just put in here? 1, 2, 3, 4. I might do a 5th, and then I'll do some some peach. So there's 5 smallish bananas there, and that works well because I've grabbed another 5 there. All right. We're going to throw this in here. So we've got 5 bananas there in the Thermomix. All right. Let's grab a cup of peach puree, like that, which is about 220 grams. All right. So we got a cup of peach puree plus those bananas. I'm going to add, let's have a think. I'm going to add some oil. Actually, I won't. I'll add yogurt. Now, my pancake bake, I would add 400 grams of yogurt. So let's go with, say, 200 grams. 420 of Greek yogurt. All right, so 200 grams. So we're at 420. Let's add some eggs. We will put 3 eggs in. My pancake bake has 6, but the pancake bake ends up slightly bready and less cakey. So we're going for an in-between here. So put 3 eggs in there. I will add a little bit of sugar. I don't add sugar to the pancake bake, but again, we're going for cake here. So let's go. Let's just put 60 grams because there's all that peach and all that banana in there as well. So it's not going to need too much. I'm going to blend this up first. I might add, again, because we're going for cake rather than pancake bake, I might add just, say, a couple of tablespoons, 30 grams of oil. We're going to add baking powder, about 60 grams of 20 grams of baking paper, up to the 60 grams. And then we're going to add flour. Let's start with 350. 400 because that's what I put in there, so that's what we're going to start with. Let's give that a mix. And we'll have a stir. And that texture looks pretty good to me. So I'm going to give that a go. That was very much a winging it, but look at that. That texture looks perfect for muffins. So we will bake this off, and if it works, I'll do another batch. But I might have to look back at the video to see what I did. But for the moment, let's get these into muffin tins. I'll bake them off. I'll let you know how it went. It is now Monday morning. I'm looking rough. It's been a really long few weeks. We got the building mostly expanded yesterday, so I will put that in. I'll put a quick photo here, but I'll put that in the next video. I need to collate it all up. I couldn't film. The building actually finished last night because it was dark by the time we got there. So all the stuff that I had in progress yesterday is still in progress. So the peach just got put away in the fridge overnight. I'm going to reheat that now. I'm going to add a bit of sugar to it just to preserve it better on the shelf. And we're going to use that for things like overnight oats and porridge flavouring and all that sort of stuff. But the muffins I made yesterday, everyone really liked. So I'm going to make some of them first, use up some of these bananas and more of that peach before I then can the rest of it. I do have some muffins. I'll go and grab one. There's only 4 left, so the kids liked them. So this is what they turned out like. They turned out nicely. The papers stick a little bit, so I'm going to add a little bit more oil to the batter. And I might use a little bit of molasses and a tiny bit of cinnamon just to add the warm spice flavours to it as well and give it a bit more colour. But everyone was happy with it. So the batch made about 12.5, which I hate, like 18 odd muffins. I hate recipes that don't make either 2 full muffin trays or 1 muffin tray or whatever. But I was making it up as I went. So I'll probably just make like 3 batches of it or something and do 4 or 5 dozen of them, I suppose. And the kids will hoover them over the next few days and we can put some in the freezer if need be. But that will get some of those bananas used up. And then whatever's left, I might just freeze. We'll see how we go. I could make some banana bread as well. But as I said, I've got very limited freezer room, and the more baked goods I make, the more they eat. Pros and cons to that. So we shall see. But first up, I'll just start by making the same recipe up again, though I may have to look back at my footage and make some notes because I just sort of threw it all in. All right, I went over my notes, so I know what I put in last time, and we're going to follow that to a degree. I also found that I did write down that banana cake with the crumble nut topping here, which was really nice, so maybe I'll make another one of those. That worked really well to take as squares to work and warm up in the microwave. That was really tasty. But let's do these muffins first. So banana-wise, I did 5 small bananas. Apparently you couldn't taste the peach very much. I did 5 small bananas and a cup of peach. Maybe I will do 4 small and cup and a half of peach. Let me just see how much these bananas weigh. Now that I've got my notebook and a pen and everything, I'm just waiting for my Thermomix to load. So that's 240 grams of banana. So each of those bananas weighs about 60 grams. 440, 220 was ended up being a cup. So let's bring this up to that's 300 grams of peach. All right. So we got 550 grams of wet there, and I'm going to grab the yogurt and the eggs. Now, I did not get to make the galette yesterday either, which is fine because that pastry can sit in the fridge for like 3 days if need be, but that fruit is macerating as well. So, you know, I do need to get that done. I need to figure out what I'm doing for dinner, and then I can do that for dessert tonight. So we put 200 grams of yogurt in here. Like that, 200 grams of yogurt, and we did 3 eggs, and then we did 50 grams of sugar. All right, and I'm just going to bump that very slightly to 75 because we're bumping the peach and dropping the banana a little bit. So let's try 75, and then I'm going to put a little squeeze of molasses and just half a teaspoon of cinnamon just to add the warming flavors there. All right, let's whip that up. I'll heavily edit this, but you know, I'm going to bump the oil very slightly as well. we did 30, we'll do 50, which should just help with sticking to those papers a little bit. So we're just adding a little bit more moisture across the board here. And then we want baking powder and flour. Just fold the rest of that flour in. Just like that. And we have good textured muffin mix. So then I'm going to cook it off. So I think that's it. So I'm going to write down what I changed here. So I jumped it to 50 grams of oil. I did 75 grams of sugar plus some molasses and cinnamon. And we did 550 grams of fruit all up. I reckon you could swap it out with anything. I reckon it wouldn't just have to be banana peach. Like, you could have whatever you want in here. So if this works, 550 grams of pureed fruit. Banana is always going to add a bit more sweetness than like a lot of other fruits would. That's awfully close to this camera here talking, but anyway. But with that yogurt, eggs, I think this could be a nice sort of a base recipe for me to use whatever pureed fruit I have available. So let's cook this one up and we'll go from there. All right, second batch of muffins is in the oven. I'm going to do lunch. I'm going to do zucchini slice, egg and ham slice, like a baked veggie slice. So I'm going to grate up some zucchini and some carrot, some onion, and we'll go from there. I'm using the grater in the Thermomix just to make my life easier for today because I'm doing a bulk amount. The way I make my zucchini slice is done on ratios, like a lot of the other things I do. So per 6 eggs we do about 400 grams of mixed vegetables slash meats and things like that. So I'm going to start grating these and I'm going to weigh that amount. Got 850, so I'm going to bump this up then to the 1200 gram mark with other stuff. So we've got 875 in there. Let's grab some onion, some garlic. Now we're grating this onion really nice and thin rather than the thicker shreds because we want it to be almost like it's minced, and we'll do the same with the garlic. Some of my fresh elephant garlic. Right. Onion gets a bit caught in the top, which is fine because we probably had more than we needed. So we're just going to scrape out, because I did it on fine, it doesn't always like it. All right, now I want some bacon or something. Totally optional. You can just top it all up with vegetables, but I like a bit of bacon and stuff through it. 3 batches. We also need about 345 grams of cheese, so I can also grate that. Honestly, having a little bit of a nothing going right morning. It's fine. All right, we want about 450 grams of flour for this triple batch, plus some baking powder. Alright, I'm going to add a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. Alright, I'm going to mix that up and then I'm going to add my eggs. So I'm going to coat all the vegetables in the flour to make it easier to mix the eggs through, and then we're just going to put it into 3 pans. I've got some tomatoes to slice on top and I'm going to bake it. It's like wow this morning, but yeah, so we're going to get that done. We're going to get the eggs in, 18 eggs, and I'll bring you back. Right, 4 dozen muffins. They turned out quite well. They're still sticking to the papers just a little bit, but it's fine. They're still warm too, but they're lovely and fluffy and bouncy and moist. All right, I haven't made this in ages, and I actually had to go hunting for the recipe. So I ended up putting it only into 2 trays, that triple batch into 2 trays. Cooking it for about 40 minutes. It appears to be cooked. But as I said, I haven't done this in a really long time. I don't know why, because everyone loves it. Definitely cooked through, so this is my version of like a egg and ham zucchini slice, and the flies are really bad today. But we have 2 of these, so one can be put in the fridge and eaten cold, and looks pretty good to me. Lovely and fluffy and bouncy and tasty. Alright, there are so many going on as usual. Okay, so this is the peach butter. I heated it back up. I used the immersion blender on it. It's still got some chunks in it. I would have to use the Thermomix to get it really smooth with my lower end immersion blender that I've got, and then I'd have to transfer it all back to heat again to cook out the air, and I just don't have time. So it's got some chunks in it, which is fine. It just means that when I go to use it, I may have to puree some of it depending on what I'm using it for. And that's the thing, I have no idea what I'm using this for yet. It tastes really nice just on its own, so it could be pulled out to have on pancakes, it could be pulled out to have on scones or things like that. It could be pulled out to have as a topper for yogurt or for ice cream or anything, really anything, mixed with things to make more muffins. I really don't know. So I'm a little, because we're still trying to clean up the kitchen too, which is part of the problem. Finding jars at the moment is a little bit of a challenge, and I actually have a lot canned at the moment. So I have a lot of full jars, and I tend to reach for my standard sized consistent ones first. So all the stuff I've been doing lately, I've been using, the more optimal jars, the more regular ones, and now I'm scrounging. I've actually said no to jars recently because I just didn't have storage for empty ones, and I still stick with that to a degree because storage for empty jars is a challenge. But I also find that I keep every jar because they're jars, but when I go and do things like this, sometimes having the sheer quantity of just different size jars is challenging when you're looking for things on shelf. So I've actually started culling some of the less standard lid size ones because it's just too hard. It just makes the jobs even longer. So I haven't removed labels off a lot of things too because I couldn't be bothered. The rims are quite dirty as well because the 63ml jars, which are these supermarket jars, ones like this, that are like pasta sauces or tomato, not Leggo's tomato paste, the Romano tomato paste ones, but not Leggo's. Leggo's are a slightly different size again. But the pasta sauces, like the Leggo's pasta sauces and stuff, they're all 63ml lids, which is this size here. But my funnel is wider than that, so I can't actually use my funnel properly inside the jars, which means that the rims get really dirty. So I'm having to give them a really good scrub because it's sticky too, and it's taking me so long to find enough jars that it's set a little bit on the rims as well. I should have been cleaning them as I was filling them. So I have a range of jars here. I have some mason jars, some of these big square mason jars, which I don't use very often because they're really pretty and I like to keep for specific things, but I'm running out of jars, so we're using them. Then you've got the 63 mils, we've got some 82 mils as well. Just a myriad of jars. There's still a little bit left in the pot, but I am sick of looking for jars. So I'm going to can this, I'll put this in a container, I'll use that for something, another batch of muffins or something during this week or something. So now I'm just going to, I've cleaned all the rims with vinegar. I've debubbled them all, and I've left some generous headspace because the pulp is quite thick. So we want a decent amount of headspace. And now I'm just going to go through and put lids on everything. And I'll probably just do batches of steam canning again, just because it uses the least amount of water and is the easiest to juggle rather than the really big pot and trying to layer these up, especially when you've got different sized jars. That's the other thing about having inconsistent sized jars, is stacking them becomes a bit of a challenge. Oops. You have to stack them in, have to figure out which way you can stack them so that the heights of them are holding up the next layer and things like that. So it's just easier to do them in single layers in the steam canner. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to get all the lids on and start that. Alright, let's finish out the day. I have steak frosted for I and some of the chicken nuggets that I've made that are waiting to be cooked for the kids, and we'll do mashed potato and broccoli and stuff. So the other thing I've got is the galette. So this is my pastry that is quite sticky. But galettes are rough, which is why I did it. Rather than a pie, we're going super simple. All we want is a nice solid base without too many cracks in it. And we're going to pull it out. You can see all the little flecks of butter in it. This will be really tasty. And all I want, I can see the circle underneath my baking paper, the circle on the dough mat. So all I'm doing is getting it into roughly that circle. I've got a bit of extra pastry in spots that I'm just adding. The olive oil to these pastries really makes manipulating them nice and easy. Alright, so we don't want any cracks in the bottom because we have juices crack out. Then I have all my peaches. Now these have been just in a little bit of sugar water. They're starting to brown a little bit, but it's going to be cooked. It's going to be tasty. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a circle of these. These could probably be cut a bit thinner, but we're going to make it work. So, super rough flare like this, and probably take it out a little bit further in some spots. And I reckon I've got far more peaches than I'm going to need for this. The kids can have them, or I'll freeze just these last bits. So I've got 2 bits of pastry. We want enough edge to fold it over, but we don't want too much. So let's spread this out a little bit more, just because I've got more here to use. And we're just going to go like that. Let me wash my hands. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to start at an edge and fold. And then we're going to pinch and fold as we go up over like that. Super simple. Pinch and fold. Oh, this bit tore a little bit, so we're just going to pinch and fold like that as well. And we've got this really rough rustic galette. I'm going to turn that can load off. Now, from this point, I'm going to... Alright, I've just got an egg with a little bit of water to thin it out. We're going to just brush the edges like this. And then I'm going to sprinkle some sugar. Did they go out there to help?
Yeah, I told them that Mom's on the...
And I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of raw sugar over everything. And then slide it onto a tray, and this will go in the oven. And I'm just going to make the same one the same way, and then I'm going to start dinner. And that's probably going to be it. I'll do some photos to show at the end, and that's the end of this very disjointed, all over the place video.